Hi, welcome to the video on create your own network attacks. In this video, we're going to take a look at using Python and the Scapy package that we saw in the last video to create your own network attacks to uncover potential vulnerabilities. So let's get to it. On the screen, you should see that we're just going to use the Scapy package that we've seen before in the last section to construct a package. So instead of using the abstraction layer that it offers, we're just going to see the ability for Scapy to create a packet by itself. And it's actually one of my favorite tools because it allows you to craft a packet from the ground up. So as you can see right here, I'm just creating a packet. And if I take a look at that, it's just an empty packet, and I could just specify the source. I could specify the source, and I could specify the destination. And if I look at that packet again, now you could see that there's a source and there's a destination. And I could also stack the packet together into the form that we typically think about a packet. So for example, I could just construct this packet, which consists of the Ethernet layer 2, the IP destination, and the TCP, as well as the layer 4 getIndex.html. So if I look at that packet again, then you could see all the field that we specify. Also, you fill in the defaults for some of the stuff that we did not specify. So how about if you want to send a ICMP ping toward that destination? The send and receive allows you to get a response back. And if I look at what kind of response that is, it's actually a tuple. So I can unpack that tuple from the receive answer. And if I look at what answer is, now that is a list that I could loop over. So if I just say for I in answer, print I, then I'm able to see the response packet that's sourcing from 192.168.2.1 that's destined for myself. So this would have been the ICMP reply that I saw back. So let's take a look at how we could use that what we've learned in this interactive section and morph it into a file that we could repeatedly use. So on the screen, you can see I have two files. One is the scapytest.py and one is the scapysecuritytest.py. So let's take a look at the scapytest.py first. As you can see right here, it's fairly simple. It just imports the sys module and uses the Scapy 3K all and imports these three methods. And it basically does the same thing, except instead of using SR, use SR1 to just receive one packet. So let's execute that, and let's use sudo so it launches root. And as you can see that it's launched that ICMP and it finished sending one packet, and now it just displayed the reply packet back. So that is in a nutshell how you morph what we saw in the interactive section into a file that you could use. So let's take a look at the other file where we have the various security tests that we have in the Python file. So again, it imports this. Just to make it a little simpler, I've actually hard-coded the destination IP, but you could easily use the sysr1 like we saw before. And here it really shows the power of Scapy, where we could just construct our own packet in any way that we want. And in this case, in the first section, line 8 to 10, that we actually use a malformed packet, which is IP version 3. As we all know, we'll have IP version 4 and IP version 6, and there's no 3. So for some reason, your destination actually is vulnerable to break if it receives an IP version 3 or something else because it received a malformed packet, then it will uncover it here. And right here, the line 12 to 14, you could see we have a ping of death, which consists of a large payload. And sometimes, your OS would be vulnerable for that and, just crash or whatnot. And then we included also a land attack, which is the source and target are the same, which doesn't really make any sense, right? If you're sending your packet to yourself, and it will only be coming from an attacker, for example. So let's launch this. And now it's, you could see the result of it. It sends the malformed packet, it sends the ping of death, and because it's large, so it actually consists of 41 packets. And then it also sends a land attack. And we're still online, so that was my gateway. So luckily the gateway was okay and was not vulnerable to any of the other attacks that we specify. I also wanted to point out the different documentation for Scapy. So Scapy is in a transition as far as documentation is concerned. So some of this would be repeat. So what you saw right here was the SCAPI introduction, and this one is in particular to the 3.0 version of SCAPI, but a lot of the useful information still stayed on the old site, which is the Read the Docs site for SCAPI. And so I'm going to include both in here. As you could see, although it's 2.4, but a lot of the information is still applicable. So for the time being, I would encourage you to read them both in order to find the information that you need. In this video, we use SCAPI and Python to keep your security toolchain up to date by just constructing your own packet and modifying each of the fields according to the potential vulnerability. And it's important to do that to consistently test and constantly test for some of the newer vulnerability. And unfortunately seems like that's been uncovered on a daily basis. In the next video, let's look at how we could test network speed with Python.